You're listening to a Roddenberry podcast.
It's Monday night, or I'm in a lot of trouble, but I have somebody here that's going to help bail me out. And I am so excited. I don't need green fantasy balls to have my fantasy come true. That's right. I said it. Fantasy balls. I don't need those because it's Mission Log Live. It's 7 p.m. Pacific and 10 p.m. Eastern. I'm so excited. I can't even hide it. And I have my very special guest here who I have not seen in at least a standard Earth several months. Ashley Victoria Robinson back on Mission Log Live, coming in hot. How you doing?
Woo! But fun fact, the last time we saw each other was in person. So that was a real blessing.
Oh, that's true. And we didn't take a picture. You were so distraught.
I know. Yeah. I'm very bad about that. I wanted to say, I meant to say this before we started. Your hair looks great today. You're really serving this look today. So thank you for dressing up for me.
You're welcome. Well, I did. I pulled out one of my finest Hawaiians, ironed it up a little bit, and threw a lot of product in my hair. Just to give you like the full-on shishi, like LA vibe that you deserve.
Merci. Thank you so much. I'm bringing that Anaheim. My shirt is from Disneyland, Haunted Mansion. That's the vibe that she's bringing today. When you started by saying green fantasy, my brain was immediately like, oh, Tendi? Like this is Tendi, my green fantasy girl? Forgetting completely that this is a major plot point of this episode is the green fantasy balls.
my double or triple entendre.
Way, say ça.
Way.
All right. Should we do the important stuff or what? Should we talk about this episode? Are we catching up? Are we talking about D23? What's happening?
I feel so like laid back and chill right now because you're here that I'm going to basically say, you know what? Let's catch up with you. The audience hasn't seen you in a while. They've seen me. They've heard me. They've seen John, heard John. And, and Char's been doing a great job when she was here on the show.
All blessings and gratitude to her.
But you're back. And, according to what's happening in Facebook, the Facebook peeps are excited. So give them a thrill.
Hi, Facebook people.
Applause.
I remember when I was a teenager and posted many embarrassing selfies on your very platform. But I did make that Anaheim joke because I did just get back from D23. It was my first D23. Bunch of non-announcements, which is fine. No Penn Badgley out there as Mr. I have no skin in the Fantastic Four game, but I do love that rumor that he was going to be. And they marched Ki Kwan out and did not announce a short round series. So like,
I'm so sad.
What are we even? I mean, he'll be great in Loki, but like, yeah. I just hope he's stringing them out for all the money. I hope he wants a dump truck full of cash to come back, and I would love to see it. So doing that, buzzing around, getting ready for New York Comic Con in like a month. So if anyone's going to that, please come and say hello. Yeah.
You're a whirlwind. I mean, you're everywhere, like pinball, like American pinball, right?
Oh, like the Godzilla pinball machine, which is my personal favorite pinball machine.
Indeed. Yeah. All right. So let's take a look at what's going on with the Facebook chat. So it's pretty much, I'm just going to like read names and pretty much read what they're saying. So we have Paul Wright, Paul Harvith, and Dr. Dawson. Hey, guys, how you doing? Alan, glad to have you here. Most of the people you've probably already seen or know from our Discord. And pretty much everyone's like, hello, Ashley. Hello, Ashley. Hello, Ashley. Hello, Ashley.
Hello. Bonjour, bonsoir. Comment ça va? In German, hello.
Jim McMahon says, of course, we're excited to see Ashley. And why wouldn't you be? Why wouldn't you be excited? I'm excited, and I'm, hosting this thing with her, so it's all good.
She's caffeinated. She's excited. The hand gestures are back.
Oh, I haven't done that so long. Indeed. Or we can do this later on because we all.
I have many Andorian notes.
I know. I was thinking of you. So okay, Ash, please tell all of our listeners how they can get in touch with us, how they can get into the Earl Green room.
Yes, as you know, you're an important part of this show. You're important to me. I love your beautiful, sexy people, and we want to hear from you. So click on the Zoom meeting link, or you can use a one tap from your smartphone. I've said that a bunch of times, and I still don't know what it means, but people do it successfully, and I applaud you. Call us at 669-900-6833 and bravely enter the meeting code, and our beautiful, sexy assistant, Earl, will let you in.
That's right. He is beautiful. He is sexy, and he is in control of the button. So make
He
sure that
is.
you do exactly what Ashley says, or you will be held in stasis forever. Or we're going to just send you some green fantasy balls, and you guys can play with those. So here's going to catch you up on Mission Log for a little bit because we have some stuff going on this week. We have the coverage of Voyager continuing this Thursday with Tattoo. So this is the one where yes, Tattoo.
Good episode.
Yes. So you might not like my little burp. Let's see. So this is one where Chakotay's flashbacks to his angrier past are more interesting than his current present. Sorry, not sorry. Mission Log The Orville, hosted by Captain Mike Richards and Jessica Lynn Verdi, and Mission Log Engage will have more episodes coming soon. We're working on some new content and recording some new stuff for you and scheduling some other great programming. So stay tuned for that. I'll let you know where you can find those in a second, because big news of the week. Big news of the week. Big news from Star Trek Day. Mission Log Prodigy is going to be coming back, hosted by us. That's
Finally.
Ashley, myself.
Finally.
And that's happening. Prodigy is releasing on 10/27. That's October 27th. And we are going to be right in after that. So make sure you go to youtube.com/Roddenberry Entertainment. Check out all of the videos that we are posting there. We have a lot there for you. Again, we have Mission Log The Orville, we have Mission Log Engage, we have Mission Log Prodigy, the first 10 episodes, plus some really great interviews. All of that stuff heading your way. Podcast.roddenberry.com is where you can find Mission Log, the main show. That's what we have going on. I'm trying to rip through this as fast as I can because it's time for what you've all been waiting for why you're here. You've seen me a bunch of times. So what you want to listen to is Ashley that's a W. Robinson.
It's 2 V's.
I know, it's 2 V's. So many V's. Ashley V. Robinson doing the recap for Lower Deck Season 3, Mining the Mind's Minds.
Okay, I felt a lot of pressure to write this recap, so we'll see if this is as much of a mess as they usually are when I pen them. Does the Cerritos have a reputation? This is the question that spins around in a traditionally meta-narrative piece of storytelling from Star Trek Lower Decks. Our crew is on Genghis 4, picking up in the wake of the USS Hood, a sick name for a starship, I have to say. And like the second contact crew does, they're there picking up the trash. Ransom orders them to clean up the mess after a bunch of science weirdos, and we think we have a pretty good sense of how this episode is going to go. Something will go wrong. Wacky adventures, Mariner and Boimler prove themselves to be leaders, Tendi and Rutherford make jokes, and we all go back to the Cerritos at the end of the day. Wrong. Our crew is forced to work with lower deckers from the USS Carlsbad, and the competition immediately ensues. How could it not? Mariner actually tries to befriend the Carlsbad crew in a nice piece of character growth, I have to say, from Season 1 Mariner, but they are not having it. Carrie Walgreen said, "I am Starfire. I am not polite." The crew of the Cerritos are preceded by their reputation, and it seems to be bad. Mariner won't take the cold shoulder from the Carlsbad crew lying down. This is officially a competition, and Mariner, Boimler, and Rutherford are going to win if it's the last thing that they do. Unfortunately, what everyone is cleaning up is not a bunch of rocks, as Rutherford describes it, but I mean, they are a bunch of rocks, but they just happen to have psychic powers that tend to bring your fantasies to life. How embarrassing could that possibly be? How many shirtless Rikers will show up when I touch one? Time will only tell. Meanwhile, back aboard the Cerritos, Tendi is undergoing superior officer training with Dr. Miglimoo. I also wrote spelling after my note because I have no idea how to spell that character's name. But she is not thrilled to be working with him. Where's Dr. Ta'ana when you need her? Meow. Just kidding. She's tasked with training actually under Captain Freeman, who is undertaking an important negotiation with the captain of the Carlsbad. Miglimoo needs Tendi to catch the captain's attention. Easy peasy. How could this possibly go wrong? The aforementioned fantasies include Rutherford, cum Leah Brahm, which I'm sure is already a category on AO3 and FFnet. I will look forward to reading those later. Boimler fighting the Borg, and Mariner admitting that Jennifer is actually her girlfriend and they actually are in love. Kissing. Please kiss and make them merry. Mike, that is my new ship forever. Orbs break, space goo leaks, fantasies turn into nightmare, there's a big Borg snake, there's a cameo from a Star Trek the Animated Series character, the Boimler Raisin Farm gets a mention, and both crews are forced to hide in a cave. Meanwhile, on board the Cerritos, Captain Freeman and the captain of the Carlsbad, Captain Mayer, get into a polite off. Respect for the elder, admiration for the young, old school versus new school. Shenanigans ensue. There's a ceremonial totem. Who should keep it? Tendi is overwhelmed. We'll see. Stuck back in the cave, the crews of the Cerritos and Carlsbad actually get to know each other, and they begin to understand the truth of how similar they really are. The Carlsbad crew admits that they were trying to impress the Cerritos crew because they are, quote, the coolest, end quote. And I mean, like, true, we all knew it, and are legendary across the Cali class of ships. When they lower their boundaries, the ensigns realize that something is off with their fantasies. I can read my own writing. They follow this rabbit hole until they uncover the truth of the matter. The Scrubble and the scientists, that is the indigenous people and the scientists who colonize them, have been working together to hack Starfleet. They are data mining. Apparently, that's still a concern in the future. The Carlsbad embraces the, quote, full Cerritos experience, end quote, and they save the day by working together. Meanwhile, aboard the Cerritos, Freeman and Mayer are able to set aside their differences, just like their crews, and detain the leaders of the Scrubble and the scientists who were distracting them from the aforementioned data mining, with a little help from trainee Tendi, of course, because Tendi smash! And that turns out that the totem that they were fighting over was meant to bug one of the Cali class captains and further data mine Starfleet. I can't believe that we're talking about data mining so much in an episode set in the 24th century. Everyone congregates at the Cerritos bar, where we viewers finally get confirmation that the characters of Lower Decks are as beloved in universe as we know them to be as characters of a television show. The end.
All right, everyone out there, applause right now, because like when I do a recap, I'm like this is what happened. This is what happened. And this happened. And Ashley is just guns blazing, like all over this.
I take the interpretive dance version.
It's so fun. You know what? And it's fun to watch live, but it's probably even more fun to like listen like later on, like when it's published.
With none of the hand gestures.
It's right, interpretive dance. Like, what is she doing? But thanks. Great recap. Ashley, love the energy you bring. I'm so in awe of the fun. And
I had a coffee. I'm ready to go.
Oh, just one coffee. Okay.
One.
Let's see what happens when we get you to two.
Ooh,
then we'll do the next week's recap.
Only.
Dos or deux. So I have a thing. Mm-hmm. I have one moral meaning or message, because I have a ton of notes, and I have two things I kind of want to get to. So I have this whole moral meaning message about the Carlsbad crew admitting that they were the ones intimidated by the Cerritos crew. And there's always two sides to every story. I love how that there's kind of like this hero worship, but it kind of was backfiring on them because they wanted to show like how serious and how good and how efficient they were, just because they think that Cerritos crew, who we know to be completely not that, but they are that. And they're getting that kind of respect, which leads me to the best line in the episode, I think. I mean, regardless of the humor, regardless of all the Easter eggs, this is my favorite line. The Cerritos is the Enterprise of the support ships. Yes. Love that. So much respect, right? In the California class ships, which is fantastic. Let's get to a couple of your points, Ashley, before we get into our callers. What really kind of like, well, we know one, we're doing this little Andorian thing with our fingers and, ear. So did you love the Andorian stuff as much as I did?
I loved it so much. I love Jennifer the Andorian. I loved that she got to be Mariner's girlfriend, or like girl she's dating.
Fantasy for sure.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, and look, I know she's a cartoon and like you can have whatever feelings you want, but she looked smoking hot in that bikini coom lingerie thing that she showed up in. And there is something about the Andorians that is like really cool and really compelling and really attractive. I don't know if it's the idea of like that they're blue in the same way that the Orions being green is like really, really kind of attractive and erotic in this particularly 60s sci-fi kind of way. But like Jennifer can get it from anyone. But I also love that, like, yes, it's funny and yes, it's sexy and titillating and it's pushing the boundaries of like what we do in a Star Trek show, as Lower Decks does when it's at its best. But it also tells you a lot about Mariner, that like she really does love Jennifer. And what does that mean? And what does that mean about her not being able to, or struggling maybe to embrace that and to put a label on it. I think it's lovely. I also really didn't want her to have a romantic relationship with Boimler, so I'm glad that this seems to be superseding that, and they're just going to be super best friends, just the way my beloved Rutherford and Tendi are going to remain super best friends, tragically to me. But now I have a new thing. I want them to get married. Kiss, kiss, kiss. Please, please, please. I'm dying. But just more Jennifer in general is a good thing. And I think that this season I think they're going to give me what I want. I'm speaking it into the universe.
There you go. So let's see a little bit more of that Andorian fantasy happening. Let's see a little bit more of, well, you know what? I felt a little bad for Bradward because, you know, he's always never the rider and always the sidecar.
Hard cosign. I hate driving. Correct. He is right. This is the one thing Boimler and I agree on.
So, gosh, I won't even want to ask. Well, you know what? I'm going to ask, you know, the chat out there. So, chat, if you got, if you were in the vicinity of these green fantasy balls, what would happen to you? You know, inquiring minds want to know. Dr. Meekly wants to know. And speaking of Dr. Meekly, we have our own very personal, very special, very, I guess, crocheted Dr. Meekly. Every once in a while, we have Chris Bauer on the line for our first caller. Chris, what's happening, man?
Hey, guys. Good to see you. Ashley, good to see you again. Yeah, I think we all know what I'm going to say about this episode, but I'll say it anyway. Dr. Meekly was back. I'm very excited. He's in the A plot. He's got like 20 lines of dialogue. This is very exciting for me. Yeah, this was a good one. This was all around a good episode.
I thought of you like almost immediately when Meekly was there as the mentor. I was like, oh, Chris is going to be all over this. I can't wait. And of course, it's like, I'm glad you got pole position on the call because your Meekly people have seen it. It's fantastic. It's crocheted. I'm sure it's warm. But, you know, you have two of your cosplays as far as I can tell. Three, I think, because you do Dr. Ta'ana, but you also have the cetacean ops in this episode who are very upset at Bradward's dirty shoes. So did you dig the episode overall? Did you dig it just because Meekly? I mean, was it hitting like all your?
Obviously, Meekly was obviously like bonus points obviously, yes. But no, all around, I thought it was a really good episode. I really thought there was a really good moral meaning message in the Tendi plot, in the Tendi Meekly plot. It was sort of like know your worth, have self-confidence, and I thought that was a really good thing that he was trying to teach her. You know, his execution was maybe a little sitcom-y. But, we are in a sitcom. But this idea of, know when to speak up, know your value, I thought that was really good. So I really like that. And like Ashley, you were saying, the Mariner Jennifer stuff that's all good. Wonderful.
Chris, I want to thank you for coming appropriately attired in Andorian blue. You understood the assignment. Also, Chris and I had dinner last week, and I was like, I think this episode is so good. I hope you like it. If you don't, I'm sorry. I don't mean to raise the bar too high. So I'm glad that you're coming on here with a lot of positive things to say.
So with say, like Tendi, like growing as a character, and they're all having their moments right now, right? So was there someone in this episode that you didn't feel in our Cerritos crew that didn't really have as big of a role to play this time as say other characters? Because sometimes you have to switch focus and stuff. I think for me, this is clearly the Tendi episode, right? But maybe Boimler took a backseat this time because he got hit with a spear last episode. So maybe too much his story.
This was the sort of Mariner Tendi episode. Boimler's still there. Rutherford really hasn't had an episode yet. I'm assuming we're going to get that, and I'm assuming we're going to get whatever mystery about his implant that was in the season 2 finale. I'm guessing that's going to be his big spotlight episode, is him finding that out. But we've got 7 more episodes. Everybody gets a turn. Give Miglio more screen time, please.
So let's see. Paul Wright says, yeah, this was Miglimu's episode. There was a TAS cameo. So there was a TAS cameo? I don't see every single one, but was there one?
The Beetlejuice looking snake thing.
That's what I thought.
That's okay. A TAS reference. Somebody will know the episode, and somebody is screaming either into their phone at their computer. But I saw that. I can see someone screaming right now. I saw that in a nice in a list of how you say Easter eggs, because I thought this was a great device as well, the fantasy balls, to have a lot of Easter eggs in a way that felt organic to the plot. But also if they Borgify one more animal, I'm gonna cry. Please stop. I don't like that.
So Chris, you put that on your list of things to crochet now, like Borg snake. Is that going to be?
We'll see. My favorite thing, which it took 2 watches to get, is Boimler's Nightmare is definitely a 1970s California raisin, like that purple blob.
Yep.
Like that's it. And I was like, oh, that's what that is. Okay, good. That's a good callback. I like that. That was very fun.
Cool. So before we let you go, because we have callers lining up as they should be, because this was such a super fun episode. Where do we go from here? Like, who do you want to see focused on next?
That's tough. I mean, obviously, like I said, Rutherford. We haven't got a lot of Shax this season. I'd like to see some more Shax, maybe some more Shax, Tayana stuff. That'd be fun.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, I think we're off to a good start. This is easily the best of the first 3. So hopefully we keep firing on all cylinders, and really excited to see where we go.
One thing that just sprung to mind, because I was thinking of Dr. Tana, the whatever alien that was sucking on that guy's foot. Okay, for some reason, I'm just completely drawn into like the alien sucking on the nacelle of the Cerritos at the credits, and this thing like attached to this guy's foot, I thought was hilarious. It was nothing. It was like a nothing moment. I was dying. I was like crying the whole time. Like, why is this thing sucking on this guy's foot, and why can't they do anything about this? So maybe that's going to be a cosplay for me. I'll just walk around with like a shoe off and have something like just sucking on my foot.
No, that's good. That's nice. That's like nice, good entry level. Go for that. Definitely.
Yeah. Those like little those little finger puppets that used to have. They're like little demons and stuff that will like they would shake. Yeah, I'm gonna do that. Like put like one on each of my toes. I'm done. I'll win. Any cosplay contest.
Well, then you can get the large slug from the opening credits that's on the back of the Cerritos. Put on your head. It's a complete look.
Perfect. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna win all the things. So, Chris, great to see you. Thank you for doing the assignment. You not only is your shirt blue, but your headphones are blue as well. You're one cool dude. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Good luck in the costume contest next year, Norm. And,
I'm going up against you. I better see something. Like I want to see like Cetacean Ops being mad about dirty shoes. That's what I want to see. All right, buddy.
See you around, guys.
We'll talk to you later.
Bye.
All right, actually, so we obviously have somebody to grit at you about because of the TAS reference. We have Dr. Dawson.
That's fine. That's why we bring in our.
He's going to bring his Dawsonness right now.
I am. It was Kugelkan from How Sharper Than a Serpent's Tooth, the animated series, which was voiced like all the creatures in the animated series by James Doohan. So,
do you know that off the top of your head, or did you Google that up?
I didn't know that. Well, James Doohan voiced literally everyone, or
no, I mean like the whole thing, like Kukulkan. Like you knew that by like on site.
It's Kukulkan and.
Pardon me.
I don't remember. Well, I don't. That's the funny story. The story goes that Leonard Nimoy and William Shatner recorded their animated series stuff as happens in 2 different studios, and one pronounced it Kukulkan, and I think the other pronounced it Kukulkan. So if you watch the episode,
the Kukulkan, yeah,
there's different pronunciations throughout the episode.
Well,
all I'm hearing is Kublai Khan from
from
the Dynasty.
Yeah. Wait a second. So who said it one way?
Shatner said it wrong, unequivocally. Shatner said it wrong.
But it's like, is it the same thing as like sabotage? It's like, because obviously sabotage is right. So like I said sabotage, I said it right. So it's sabotage. It's Kukulkan. It's Kukulkan. So obviously he must be right. How do you know this stuff? You're amazing. Your brain.
Because this is what I do. We've talked. Norm, I have no life. This is my life. So
we've talked, but I didn't know the brilliance of what you speak.
Now, but in the episode, you had mentioned the sick bay scene, and I fell out of my chair during that scene. Dr. Tana he's like, "Oh, what's gonna happen? You're gonna be fine. Shut up!" And then turning around and having another completely. It's like, and we're just gonna have to cut off his leg. It's his foot. It's fine. Another one will grow back. What? Oh, no, it's fine. Shut up. You'll be fine.
It's so frenetic in sickbay, but she knows it's like that's what she does. Like, it's just everything everywhere all at once. I don't know, man. We just don't see enough of Tana, and she kills the scenes, man. She does just drives those scenes bonkers. I love it.
Does bedside manner translate to the 23rd and the 24th century? Because it's such a customary thing, particularly to like North American culture, that your doctor has to be kind to you. But like, what if your doctor's a Tellarite and their way of showing?
With you.
Yeah, Yeah, like their way of showing respect and deference is by being a complete butthole. Like this. Now I'm wondering if maybe Dr. Shawn is actually like has excellent bedside manner, just not by the human experience.
It's very well possible. Yeah.
Her bedside manner. It'd be like if Jet Reno from Discovery was the doctor. It reminds me so much of that. Those characters just would be hilarious together, and I think that that's what it reminds me of. Is
that's the crossover episode we need.
I can see like Jet Reno like taking her gum and like sticking it in somebody's like phaser burn. Like, here, go back to work. You know, that's all you need. You know, you're good. You're fine. You know, tape an aspirin to it or something.
Yep.
Right? Did you have a favorite scene, like a favorite scene? You know, something that was like a callback, something that wasn't a Kukulkan or Kukulkan, however you want to pronounce it.
I think seeing Leah Brahms was just one of those aha moments.
Mm-hmm.
And
there's so many like young men or maybe young women. I'm not going to speak for anyone's, you know, attraction to her, but of a certain age when like Leah Brahms come on, you're like, oh, it's Leah Brahms. Like the bass just drops like boom, it's Leah Brahms, right? And the writing for her was just, it was so tuned up, right? It was like riding the edge of maybe being a little too risque, right? But that's what Lower Decks does. How did you feel about Jennifer the Andorian? Turned on, turned off? What do you think?
You know, it was interesting, and it was unexpected. I think it was something that was a little unexpected. So, and the fact that we are at a point in this fandom or this whatever the word is, in Star Trek worlds, that like it just was what it was. Right. There was no, there was no big deal. Sort of like back to Discovery with Culber and Stamets. It just is what it is, and we've gotten to that point in society in the future that okay, nobody was like, what? They're like, oh yeah, okay, whatever.
Like they're unflappable.
Yeah.
Right?
I appreciate your very mature take on it. And we were over here being like, but I'm thirsty for this Andorian. And you're like talking about the implications of it in like the culture of the show and the culture of the people who consume the show. Like this is
actually someone's got to do it on the show. Someone's got to do it tonight. It's not going to be us. It's not going to be us. I know. That's why Doctor is Dawson, right? Mm-hmm. He's the Dawson caller. Yeah. I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Chris. So, we all have our favorites. Is there a character so far on the show that you haven't seen enough of, and certainly not enough of Jennifer, or maybe Leah Brahms, or maybe Leah Brahms and Jennifer together, because we did see that scene. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying.
We did.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that the Boimler character is probably my favorite, but obviously we see a lot of him. But I think he's my favorite just because he's just like this klutzy, wants to fit in, can't fit in thing. So sort of like my life. So
you're not a robot. You're not a robot, Dr. Dawson.
Robot, but that was another scene. The final scene where they're like, oh, everybody's awesome. Like, but we thought he was like a micro robot or whatever it was. And he's like, I'm not, but everybody's like, yeah, you are. You really are.
In Star Trek, how can robot be an insult when Data is one of the greatest characters to ever come out of the franchise?
Yeah.
And yes, I know, don't have to tweet me that he's an android. I know, but come on.
There's a difference between a robot and an android. Did I just fail something? I think I did.
Oh yeah, and if you get into the Marvel comics, then there's synthezoids.
Hey, oh my gosh, we can't do that. Yeah. One last thing. Anything else you wanted to touch on, Dr. Dawson, before we do a station identification?
No, I think wasn't my favorite episode, but it was not, a terrible episode either. I think it kept my interest through the whole thing. There was, I think, less fan service, call it, than the previous couple episodes. And I think that was good because the last couple episodes were just, especially the Bozeman, Montana, Ephraim Cochrane stuff. I mean, that entire episode was
so
just
good.
like reference from all of the different iterations. And this one, they were Leah Brahms was a great cameo, but it wasn't in your face as, hey, we're doing this. Like, the reason to watch this is because we've put fan service into it. So
right, it wasn't like seeing Batlets and Banooks, that was having that's still one of the greatest
that's the name of
things.
Somebody's memoir coming up.
Yeah, and having
JG's.
Hartzler. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you, Dr. Dawson, for bringing a tone of intelligence and sincerity and quality to our show. Because as soon as you're off the air, we're going to go back to talking about Mennefer. So because as we do, as we're supposed to do. Thanks, man. Appreciate your calling, and we'll see you on the Discord because you are on the Discord. All right, buddy. And speaking of, so that's what I'm going to do now. And you're one of our patrons, and we have actually a lot of our callers are patrons, and it's not a prerequisite to sign up and call in, even though Earl will scream you and probably squeeze you for a few shekels. But we're going to talk about Patreon, because Patreon is how we are supported here doing what we do on Mission Log. And when you go to patreon.com/Mission Log, you can take a look at all different ways to support us. And once you choose your tier to get your entry and your swag, because our swag is pretty cool, if I do say so myself, we have a great coffee mug that says Rack to Gino is for closers, right? You got to do the ABCs of closing, and only Rack to Gino is for closers. You get to look at the Discord, and the Discord is where you get entry into this great community of people that we're talking to on a daily basis. And we do all different types of fandoms. We go all the way from food, all the way to almost a decade of science fiction and fantasy. We have pretty much every channel that we can make for Star Trek, from the movies, the TV shows, individual TV shows, to books, and all the different Mission Log shows that we do. So Ashley, you're one of our family there. You're one of the patrons and on Discord. And I know that you have been busy, but I know that you've also been on there before. And maybe you could tell the audience a little bit of your experience there too.
I really love the Discord. And I actually I'm very much a lurker, but I comb through there for people's insights when I'm making my show notes, because everybody there is so friendly, so open, so smart. And the amount of threads that are in this Discord is shocking. Everything you could want to talk about, like the Rings of Power thread, is making my whole life right now as a avowed fantasy nerd as well as a Trekkie. And I just can't speak highly enough to how respectful everybody is there as well. And I have people who message me directly there, and everyone's been so nice and so sweet and so kind and so friendly. It's a distillation of what you get here, but in a one-on-one interaction. So if you like Mission Log, particularly if you are like myself, more of a lurker, I can't encourage you enough to check out the Discord and have that personal one-on-one experience. And also, there's a lot of funny GIFs. There's a few GIF masters who go out there and really show out for us with every reference.
Is GIF Canadian for GIF? I just,
yeah, it's the proper pronunciation. Like, there's a U in it, like in color.
Right, a color. Oh, okay. Yeah. Get out of my GIFs. All right. So,
out of my house.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Ashley, for that. I appreciate that. And I appreciate everyone's support here in chat, especially Heather, who, like, in all straight up caps, sell it, Norm. I've been doing that because, John will whip me. He'll beat me until morale improves. That you've heard him say that. Speaking of which, so that was the whole Patreon thing. So please go to patreon.com/Mission Log. Take a look at the way that you're going to support us. We really appreciate your help. And it helps us do things like, plan for the next, the big party event that we're going to have at the Rio next year at Star Trek STLV 57. There's something here that I would actually want to drop into Epicureanism, which is one of our Patreon Discord threads. This is for John, because there is a huge table of food. And I would be remiss as a host and his friend if I didn't say what was on that table of food when Captain Freeman and the other captain were not accepting the stone thing.
Can't believe you noticed this. Like, when I saw this in the notes, I was like,
it's what we do. If there's food on the show, it's what we do. So doing the John Champion Epicurean segment of the show, in Captain Freeman's meeting room, we have on display several cheeses, I believe brie and camembert, served on a Starship charcuterie board. different types of hors d'oeuvres shaped in little deltas, and naturally my favorite, guacamole and tortilla chips. It wouldn't be a California class ship if we didn't have guac and chips, right? So that's the important stuff. That's the serious stuff that we talk about on Discord. That's why you should sign in and show up to talk about food. All right, Ashley, let's get back to notes for a little bit before I take our next caller. There are a couple things that you were emboldening, making note of. Looks like you wanted to talk about a couple things.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about the sort of, you opened with your morals meetings messages, and then I felt like I didn't have sufficient, and I gave it a little think as you were speaking. And I really think that this episode speaks to the ideas that you need to embrace your fantasies, because they are played for yucks. But if you break down what is in the fantasy, it reflects a lot about who these people are and what they need and what their strengths are. Boimler in particular comes to mind because he wants to be the adventure captain who goes right to being captain to fight the Borg. And then he literally is confronted by a Borgified character later in this episode. And that character who is charismatic, who is Kirk-esque, is inside himself. And we get a glimpse of that when they go and hide inside the cave with the Carlsbad crew and then leave later. Like, if Mariner is a little softer and a little more embracing of her feelings, she becomes a more fully fledged human being, which is what the Jennifer character is trying to show her. With Rutherford and Leah Brahms, Rutherford just has to science, the shit out of something, to quote The Martian, and then he'll save the day. Also, if you have screeners, you get to see all of these things play out in future episodes that we'll get to talk about soon. And it's really interesting that it's presented in such a silly way, because when they lean into these things that they want most, they become this more complete version of themselves. And I just love the way that it's presented. And I love that it's played for comedy when it's actually something that's so serious. And I very much embrace the idea that I don't have guilty pleasures. If I like something and it's bad, I'll just straight up tell you that it's bad. And I think that whether that is a television show that you like, or whether that is some urge that you've been keeping down, I would encourage us to be more like the Cerritos crew and embrace it, because the whole show has been played for yucks for quite a while as well. And we're learning from all these new characters from the Carlsbad, who I really hope we get to see again with their dominant groin properly healed.
Exactly.
That those qualities are to be admired.
I didn't know. That was Tellarite, right?
I assumed so, but now someone is yelling at their phone saying, no, it's not. It's a cat or something. But yes, I assumed it was a Tellarite.
I mean, I think a Tellarite would have a dominant groin, So
a Klingon certainly would.
Yeah, two of them. Some would say, yeah. Now, that's actually a really good point, Ashley. It's the interesting phrase that I picked up in that is guilty pleasure, because if it's something that you really enjoy and it's something that someone else doesn't enjoy, that's your pleasure. It doesn't have to be guilty, because it's what makes you happy, right? I've said that on occasion that, like Roadhouse, one of the greatest movies ever made, starring Patrick Swayze, and guilty pleasure of mine. But it's not a guilty pleasure. I like it because I'm from a small town. There was actually a bar, one of those kind of like, peanuts under the feet kind of bar in Alliance, Ohio, called the Double Deuce. It was like on the outskirts of town.
Of course it's called the Double Deuce.
Yeah. And it was just after the fact. And this was like when I was growing up, and I'm like, that's kind of place where you'd have like honky tonk and people getting like, thrown out of bars, and, someone would like throw like some like a stop sign in someone's Mercedes. That's all where I came from. So when I watch a movie like that, it's like, yeah, it reminds me of something special. That's not a guilty pleasure. That is just straight up pleasure, so what I'm trying to say, folks, is whatever those green fantasy balls give you, does that not give you pleasure, as Golth would say? Just saying.
My gosh. Are you not entertained?
Does it not give you pleasure? So, anywho, I'm glad you brought that up, because, someone who brings me a lot of pleasure as a friend and as a caller in for the show is Paul Harveth, and he's next online. So he gives me great pleasure calling in.
Norman. Thanks. Yeah, that was outstanding. I sort of embarrassed by that, but thank you very much. Consider you a friend, particularly after meeting you in person in Vegas. That was a lot of fun. But this episode, I'm just so wiped out by listening to Ashley's recap, and I've watched it twice. I was like, oh my God, how do you keep up? There's a couple things that have happened tonight that have been very interesting. I think Chris has taken some Tendyisms as she spoofed you or she spoofed Boimler by doing the arm thing and the robot at the very end.
Mhm.
Chris just did the same thing to you, Norm, on your own show with the cosplay thing and a sock. I think we got to watch Chris. I think there's some, trickling in from the show into his brain, and we need to maybe watch that.
Okay.
Just an observation I saw. I mean,
put it in the notes. We'll put it in the show notes.
It was pretty funny to watch, though. The beginner level cosplay was pretty interesting. I gotta object, though, to how Stevens is being treated here. Now, look, as the only person that I can logically cosplay, why would you break the guy's arms? I thought he was dead. I thought, oh man, they offed Stevens. I was just almost in tears there halfway through, and now, well, at least he's just got broken arms, and then he can't even have a drink at the end. It was just disconcerting. So, can't we give Stevens a little love?
I think like the moral of the story here is like, we really just gotta just not hero worship Ransom. That's the problem. Like, just don't.
That is good advice. Honestly, solid advice.
Honestly, like at first glance, and it wasn't just until I realized that he was wearing red. It's like I thought it was Billups for a second. I'm just like, did they put Billups in a weird costume or something? Because like because they don't really differentiate, from the follically challenged on that show. I'm just saying, right? That's the way it was. So, but I'm so glad that I'm glad, sad, not glad, sad, that he wasn't able to enjoy his. Obviously, it was a bourbon. So he threw bourbon all over his face, just like the old airplane joke. I have a drinking problem. He throws it on his face. Yeah. So,
it was. I just had to eject there. But the funniest moment of this for me, I've actually laughed out twice loud. I mean, loud was the exchange when Mariner's fantasy shows up and it's Jen and Rutherford's going, that's your fantasy? Oh, shut up. Just go back to Leah Brahms. I mean, I literally just am rolling laughing at that interchange between those two, voice actors across however they did it. Oh my word. That was so incredibly funny. Wow. And then, the nightmare, of course, for Mariner has got to be Wolf Jennifer, right? Which side do I, it's like crazy. But I will
which inner wolf are you going to feed?
Yeah, exactly. I will end on this, the moral meaning and message. And I'm just, amazed at how different this is than Ashley. And what a joy to have you back and see you in person again and the arm stuff. Well, I gotta do this one. You do this one, I do this one because I have a round face.
Yes,
you and I together, I have a very pointy face, almost have a normal shaped face.
So the moral meaning message I got, of course, being a retired person and looking at something, I don't know, just different, was don't make assumptions. I.e. they're going after each other, right? Oh, well, they're trying to show us up. Well, no, they're trying to show us up when actually it's a deep-hearted respect for each other. So, wow, what a great lesson there is there. Just an amazing episode. And so I just feel privileged to have you two talking about it, because I really think you both connected very well with this episode tonight. So thank you for everything.
Thanks.
See you again sometime.
Nice to see you. It's been too long.
So Paul, like of all the arm movements that you're going to steal from Ashley, I do love this, just because it helps shape my chin, a little bit. So what would you do? Like I like the sweating with that.
I have to watch it in slow motion. There's so much going on. And we were having a little conversation. It's like, holy cow, how much caffeine has she had? And I admire them all. And you can tell she's an actor pure and pure. And
there you go.
I would love to see you on stage, young lady. So looking forward to that.
Someday soon, we're speaking it into the universe.
And we'll make it happen. Throw it out there.
Yeah.
See you all.
Fire up those green energy pleasure balls, and we will make it happen. And I know that his are in the air right now because Alan likes juggling a lot of green fantasy energy balls because that's what he does. Welcome back to the show, Alan.
I love that everyone's going to be voguing, and I don't even know how to vogue properly.
Yes, we're absolutely. It's Vogue time. But yeah, it's great to see you guys. Ashley, welcome back. Nice to have you back with us.
Thank you.
But yeah, A lovely episode this week. Sadly, a little bit of a break in a trend because, for the first 2 weeks, there were specifically, great things that I was very much looking forward to having in my real life. Historic Bozeman, yes. Betless and Binox,
Oh yeah.
absolutely.
Mhm.
Glowing balls that make your innermost thoughts come to life. I'll take a pass on that one. But
why?
I
Because that
see
means
your
that you
fantasy is dark.
that's because you can make your batless and banuts come true.
well,
You
yeah,
know,
I mean,
it
if I
all
was
works
gonna,
together.
what would appear before me is a D&D group that shows up regularly.
Oh, the cut is
But
deep and real
ooh,
and
yeah,
true.
that's harsh. But
Mhm.
yeah, there's privacy. Privacy is a thing. Just like I expect Jordy wanted that to stay on the holodeck, and now it's just still out there. It's
It really
at
You know,
least,
is.
yeah,
TNG really dragged Geordi for
yeah.
his relationship with women, which, given how to this day very attractive LeVar Burton is, was never anything I ever bought. The Leah Brom story, I think it's very well done, but I was like,
Yeah.
you're telling me this guy can't get any? I don't know.
Yeah, Susan Gibney, Julie Warner, he had his pick on that ship,
Yep.
but but yeah, and kudos to Susan Gibney for clearly being an it getter when it comes to this stuff, because it really sort of that performance really sort of resonated with, like, okay, I'm gonna go straight into why people remember this and why this is funny. So
Oh yeah. Well, it's an interesting thing because that's kind of like that is a deep cut thing. When fans of a certain knowledge base, when they see Leah Brahms, they're like, oh, we remember that relationship or lack thereof with Geordi, with the holodeck, the holodeck situation. I mean, it's the kind of same thing with Minuet, in Riker. When you see that happen, if it was referenced, you're like, oh, this is the tragedy of that story. But then you get new audiences, right? New audiences that don't get those deep cut references. Do they still work on a certain level? I think they do, but not as deeply.
yeah, and in that respect, I'm kind of glad that was sort of like the one big reference of this episode that was sort of like, hey, remember, and you kind of get that with the how sharper than the serpent's tooth creature, and some of the other stuff that they brought in there. But those are just sort of like the typical background elements, and people can appreciate them or not. What I liked about this episode is that it did sort of like hew to that sort of general sci-fi thing that Star Trek obviously would do, but hasn't done yet, in terms of the specifically the green ball that makes your fantasies come to life. They've had other fantasy stuff, and they've had other glowing balls, but never together. So it's the Reese's peanut butter cup of sci-fi here. But but yeah, I will say I did have one minor critique of the episode, in that I thought they leaned a little bit too heavy at the start with the Carlsbad crew being very standoffish with the Cerritos people. If they were, it didn't come across in any way, shape, or form like hero worship. So at the end, when it turns out that that's the case, it did feel like a bit of a cheat, writing wise. Like, I think it might have been, not to do the mission log writer's hat thing, but
Do it.
Rewrite this episode. I would have pegged them as, like, instead of competitive, or competitive with the Cerritos. I think you can play off, we're kind of like awestruck and starstruck a little bit, as being standoffish, and sort of like the Cerritos people could interpret that as they think we're bad luck because all this crazy bleep keeps happening to us. And I think you can do pretty much the same joke structure with the rest of the episode, but it comes from a place that's a little bit more authentic, towards like, no, we weren't afraid of you. We were, so blown away that we didn't even want to talk to you, kind of a thing. I don't know. That's
fair. That's fair. And I maybe if they probably crack that code a little earlier on, it wouldn't have seemed like such an immediate flip, a subversion of expectation there. So you're like, oh, of course this is the reason why. It's a very standard trope. And maybe that's the kind of thing that you can do when you're focusing on like one story, but you really had a strong story with Tendi and Miglimoo. And again, there's a subversion of expectation there, thinking that he would probably be the person that would be able to shore her up for being a science officer. But no, it has to be Dr. Tana. So
yeah, and I thought that was a really sweet thing because I that's one of the sort of relationships that I think works the best in this show, because they are kind of like very sort of coming at things from very opposite points of view and very sort of polar opposite personality types, but it just sort of like they work together really well, and I'm glad that they're still going to be able to have that kind of relationship, even if Tendi's career goes off in a different direction from being the medical assistant like she was at the beginning. I think that's a good thing, and I'm glad that maybe some element of that gets to continue.
But do you think, going back to last episode, do you think that that's what they were trying to do with Ransom and Mariner? It looks like there's like a kind of a continuation of mentor mentee, and maybe Ransom and Mariner are obviously going to have they're going to clash because their personalities are so strong. And maybe in T'Ana, she's not always there, but when she's there, she makes her point very well known. The way that she was trying to tell Tendi, you got to just basically cut through the noise and make your point as well known as you can, because that's what her advice was. So,
oh yeah,
do you think that we're seeing a trend here in like these characters? I mean, if we see, say, a Rutherford focused episode, are we going to see him back with Billups? We're going to see him with somebody else?
Oh, probably Billups. Well, Rutherford had that great, what was it, like the second or third episode where he was mentored by everybody, and it went really, really well.
That's a great episode.
Yeah, that's that's just. But yeah, I think that's a possibility, and I do agree that Rutherford is due. I think Chris was saying that earlier in the show, that it would be nice to get a little bit more with him, and kind of what's making him tick. I think of the four, he's probably got the least amount of attention in terms of personality building, backstory, and things like that. So hopefully that's on the agenda for the remainder of the season. So
also, what is the implication of Tendi going into the senior officer track?
Oh, yes. Yeah. I mean,
is she going to be the first one to finally accept the I'm in America lieutenant? Right?
She's the Patty Yusataki of that group.
Yeah, which would be so great, but also kind of sad.
Yeah. Oh God, that means one of them might die. No.
All right, let's keep this on the upswing.
Yeah. No. Shax came back.
Yeah.
So yes. People can come back in this show. That's
Boimler also came back.
He did. Yeah. Well, I mean, now there's two of them. So.
Oh, that's right. The other Boimler's out there in the universe. I wonder if they're going to capitalize on that. I don't know why I went in the full shadow mode on that. It's because I couldn't really figure out what I wanted to say. And are they going to capitalize? Is Kublai Khan going to capitalize on this? So
I have no idea, but there's always possibilities.
Oh, well done, sir. Well done.
I got a sword. Yes,
that's best. That is always good. You heard it here, folks, and we're going to relish in that. I hope we can GIF that or GIF that somewhere later down the road.
Tag me if you make it.
Right.
GIF is peanut butter.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Alan, for that. And thank you for calling in.
Yeah.
Always appreciate hearing you and your deep thoughts on Lower Decks.
Well, thank you guys. It's always a pleasure to be able to call in and just have a great conversation. And even I wouldn't even say it. This is definitely a good episode. I think it's got a lot of great things going for it. The possibilities are there for lots of very interesting cosplay coming up. I don't know if I'm necessarily looking forward to Klingon clowns from outer space, but they're there now.
There you go, Paul Harvith. Someone has mentioned Klingon clowns. Yes. He was worried about that.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just another solid fun trip through the lower decks. Gotta love it.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks for calling in, Dan. We will see you back on the Discord. All right.
Love the Discord. Have a good one, guys. Bye-bye.
Nice to see you again.
See you.
Yeah.
So with a little bit of time we have left, Ashley, because I wanted to ask you this, just kind of like your ballpark summation of how'd you feel about the first 2 episodes? Episode 1, huge, right? At Bozeman, Montana, you had my favorite part in the probably in the history of Lower Decks, because I really want to go there now. I want to go to Thirst Contact. I thought that was the greatest thing ever.
I mean, clearly you and I are game for Thirst Contact. I think that's very, very obvious. Yeah. They referenced my favorite ever Trek movie, so definitely happy about that. It seems to me that the first episode or the premiere episodes of a new season of Lower Decks are a little bit catch up. Not a ton happens. It's more like, here's the status quo. Here are these characters. Here's a fun adventure. We're going to do more of this, because I remember the season 2 premiere being very similar. But I enjoyed the first 2. But I liked this one the best.
Oh, good. We all have our favorites. I mean, I haven't had a favorite one yet. I've liked elements of them. Like I liked, obviously, like leaning into First Contact. Obviously, there's a lot of love there and a lot of nostalgia that's being pulled. We're saying, okay, there's the Zephram Cochrane hat. There's all the stuff that's going on in Bozeman land. Obviously there's Thirst Contact, which is amazing. He even had like the Steppenwolf magic carpet ride disc. All of that stuff is there. And I'm just wondering, if it's not there, what do you do to tell a really good, interesting story? And it's not saying that it wasn't an interesting story. It's just that, there's so much there to drive you in so quickly and to capture you, to bring you back to why you love Lower Decks so much. But the second episode, being a D&D player and being someone who loves fantasy and role-playing games, I loved just the genuine authenticity of what they were trying to do with Dungeons and Dragons and the Klingon VHS game, where I'm glad that JG has his moment in the sun, because Robert O'Reilly's Galron, he was all over that VHS game, but now you have the Ferengi selling the cheap knockoffs. I mean, all that stuff, so real world in the details, obvious.
I think that could come back too. That could either be a trope that we see return to repeatedly, like Community eventually seasonally had their D&D episodes, but we've seen a number of in-universe games that these characters play, and I would like to see them referenced or revisited, even in here's a free idea for the animators, even in a background all on Boimler's shelf or something like that, because we've built up enough of a catalog. But just with the Klingon game in particular is such a specific moment in Trek fandom history and in our nostalgic love of things that are of questionable quality, perhaps. I'd love to see it come back, but I thought it was a great use in that episode.
I want to see somewhere along the line on maybe in Boimler's, his bunk or something like that, the selfie of him in Karanch, right? Or
yes.
Karanch, because just the spear sticking out of him in Karanch, one more for the boys back home. That was hilarious, right? That was so good. That's what Lower Decks can do. You're like, oh my gosh, this guy's going to kill him. And then all of a sudden he pulls out that giant weapon of some kind of, no, it's a selfie stick. It's his version of a selfie stick. I thought that was the smartest thing ever. We have a couple more minutes here, and I want to just get your thoughts on what do you think is going to come up next? What do you like?
You can't ask me that. I've watched all the screeners we got.
Oh, unfair!
You've already watched everything.
So you have looked into the Seeing Stones, all 7 of them, all 7 Seeing Stones.
I had to really bite my tongue to say if people's hopes and dreams and predictions were smart or full of folly. Tell me then, what do you want to see coming up?
Well, one critique about the first episode was they wrapped up maybe Captain Freeman's storyline a little too quickly. And obviously you had like this weird and sinister and very intelligent plan, by the Packlids to do what they did. I'm like, that's kind of actually genius, what they did. Like, we're going to destroy our world so that we can get a better world to be on, and even in jail. So I wonder if the Packlids are going to be back. Also, and because I was thinking of Valeria when I saw the opening, because Valeria hasn't called in a while. And this is just one of those pleas for them to call in. Yes. I said, hey, there's a crystalline entity now. Like, the entire opening sequence is layered with just chaos now, right? It used to be just the Borg ship, and then they would turn around. Then it was the Borg ship fighting the Romulans, fighting the Packlids, and now there's a crystalline entity. What is going on? Right. And is that going to make an impact at all ever? We'll see.
I bet, because everything in the opening sequence has in some way, not necessarily as the big bad or a key plot point, but everything has been referenced from that. But I also love now that we know, like we have been taught, that we're just going to get more and more nonsense. Like, if we get 7 seasons, 10 seasons, 15 seasons, 35 seasons, and you and I are here with our walkers, I can't wait to see what that screen is crammed with by the time the series is over. It's of all the Easter eggs, and we do get a lot of Easter eggs here on Lower Decks, those are my favorite Easter eggs, are the ones that they sprinkle into the opening credits.
They're gonna, we know that it's probably gonna, jump the Fonzie shark when they start Easter egging themselves. That's when you have that. Right?
it's Jennifer the Andorian in her lingerie. It's just floating in the background.
Remember me, season 3, episode 3. Yeah, we already saw that. Been there, done that. Or Mariner has, or maybe not. I don't know.
Oh, I bet she has. I
bet. Thanks everyone for joining us. Ashley, thank you so much for being here.
I'm so happy to be back.
With all your points of articulation, all the fans out there, love the arm movements. And I'm so glad that you're back with your energy. And that's only one cup of caffeine, people. Mission Log Live is produced by Roddenberry Entertainment, technical production on Mission Log and Mission Log Live by the effervescent, even if you don't see him, Earl Green. Be sure to visit podcast.roddenberry.com for the latest from Roddenberry Podcast. If you would like to support Mission Log directly, give us a look at patreon.com/Mission Log. Thanks to Ashley V. Robinson for co-hosting with me this week. Thanks to everyone who joined us live or who will join us later. We look forward to discussing Lower Decks Season 3, Episode 4 with you all next week.
This is a Roddenberry podcast. For more great podcasts, visit podcast.roddenberry.com.